All right, welcome back to another video. I'm going to show you something, and it may not look impressive, but there is a lot of stuff going on here. I'll show you first, and then I'll break it down. All right. So, what is going on here? So I've decided to kind of, back burner the landscape world building stuff I've been working on. There's still a lot of stuff to do there, but I wanted to focus more on the game mechanics for a little while. Try to get that into a decent place. So as you can see, I've been working a lot on the combat system here. And I know, what you were looking at maybe didn't look great, but there is a lot of things going on here. Let me hop back in. All right, so first thing you might notice is we have a HUD. So we got health and stamina on the bottom here, and then in the top right corner I have an experience bar, a level indicator, and a experience indicator. So I found a tutorial online, a series where basically the guy is walking you through creating an RPG, and he's kind of basing it off of Assassin's Creed Origins type game, third-person RPG. You go away. So it doesn't apply exactly to what I'm doing, but he is like walking you through how to do the player stats and how to, make your attacks land and that sort of stuff. So I've been going through that series and trying to, take the parts of it that do apply to my game. Now, I will say, I do not plan to keep a HUD like this for my game. My intention right now is to be a primarily HUD-less game. I want to communicate to the player, how much stamina you have and how much health you have through visual indicators, like in the game itself and not necessarily in a HUD. However, I thought it would be a good idea to go ahead and start with a HUD like this so that I can, get the mechanics of it working behind the scenes, and the HUD indicators here let me give me like visual feedback that things actually are working the way they're supposed to. And then once I kind of have things set up and working the way I want, and then I'll go through and say, okay, instead of a stamina bar, I want my character to like their attacks start to swing a little bit slower. They start to sound out of breath, that kind of thing. And then health, a lot of games do things where the screen starts to get dark or bloody or something. Maybe something like that, because I'm kind of basing my game off of light and dark. I have some ideas to make, the light kind of dim as you start to lose health, kind of, like your character's losing faith the closer they're getting to death, and, you start to kind of spiral, and, just some ideas. But for right now, I do have the HUD and stuff here so I can test and make sure things are working. So right now, I have the stamina bar mostly working. So if I start sprinting, you'll see my stamina bar reducing. If I stop, it'll start slowly coming back. If I swing my weapon, it takes some stamina. And if I, run until I run out of stamina, suddenly I'm no longer sprinting and I can't attack for a minute while my stamina is kind of coming back. So yeah, I'm attacking, nothing's happening. Okay. So right now I have it so I have to have like at least about like 10 stamina to be able to attack again. Right now, just every attack that I do costs 10 stamina, and sprinting takes 1 stamina per second or per tick or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. Those are things that I will probably tweak in the future, and I will probably do things like have some attacks cost different amounts of stamina. Like I have these charge attacks where you can kind of hold the button. Like you can see right now, when I first click the button, it takes that 10 stamina away. But then while I'm holding it, it's recharging already. So I need to do something there. What I probably want to do is either take the stamina away and hold it until after I release it, or make it drain stamina while you're holding it. I also have a little shield bash going on. Right now, I don't have the player health actually working yet. Like I have the mechanics for it set up, and it's actually the same thing as the health that's on the enemy here. Again, this enemy, the health bar above this enemy, this is not what the game's going to look like. I'm not going to have health bars like this, but it is a nice visual indicator for testing to make sure it's working. So you can see, when I hit him, it's taking off currently 10 damage just any time I hit him. So, that's another thing they'll have to work on, like how much damage does each attack do? Does a charged attack do more damage? That sort of stuff. You'll notice that he's not hitting me right now because I haven't got that half of the equation set up yet. But yeah, so the enemy health bar here at least is showing that the code for decreasing his health whenever he gets hit is working, and then when it reaches 0, he dies. I'm having some problems right now. So the first problem I had was when the enemy died. When I first got that working, he would... I did like a little animation where he falls down on the ground. However, as soon as that animation would end, he would stand back up and just do his idle pose again. So I've switched it to he ragdolls when he dies. But then the issue I ran into was his corpse slides around the ground, and it's kind of funny looking actually. He'll just take off down the landscape like he's a snake or something. So to get over that for right now, I just have it so after he's dead for about 3 seconds, his whole actor just gets destroyed. So yeah, what happens when he dies is something that's going to need a lot of work. All right, so in my first person character is where I have the code for, draining stamina while he's sprinting and attacking and all those sorts of things. So the first thing I had to do to make the sword actually connect when I swing it is I have to do a trace, so a sword trace here. So I'm going to put this on. I'm going to debug this and show it so you can see it. All right, so what this trace does is it traces the path of my weapon. And then it is checking to see if it actually overlaps with the enemy. So you can see that when it turned green, that registered as a hit. So hide that. So the way that I actually am tracing this is, so you don't want the sword to be tracing all the time, because sometimes you're just walking around, you're not actually attacking. So the way you determine when it should actually be tracing is you have to go into the animations for the attacks themselves. So if I go into my first person animations, so for example, this attack left animation. So I have a couple of things going on here. So within any of your animations, you can add what's called a notify track, an anim notify. So this is, within the timeline of your animation, you can essentially create instances where something happens. So I have two things happening here. I have the weapon swing, which is the sound of the swing. And then I have the trace notify. So basically what this says is when it gets to this point in the animation, you start tracing the sword, and then when it gets to this end, you stop. So essentially for all of these animations, I come in here and I go, okay, he's winding up. He's starting to swing. So now it's an attack. So now we're queuing up the sound of the whoosh, and we're tracing the sword, and then he reaches the end of his swing. So then we stop tracing it. So basically I had to go in there and do that for every attack animation, and you adjust it for each one so that it's perfect for whatever that animation is. So another thing regarding the sound here of the weapon swing, originally I had in my player code just whenever I hit the attack button, play the attack sound, but that doesn't really work the way you think it should, because even if I had my weapons sheathed, even if I hit the attack button, even though I wasn't actually attacking, you'd still hear the little whoosh sound, and you might have actually picked up on that in some of my older videos. Or like if you press the button and hold it to do a charge attack, it would play the sound while you're holding it, and then nothing would play when you let go. So actually moving the sound to the animation means that it's always lined up perfectly with the actual attack. So that was a good thing to learn. All right. So yeah, we're tracing the sword. I did the same thing for the shield, because I have a shield attack. So I can show that one. So if I block and then I attack, I do another little trace of that for this one. So for the sword, basically I tell it where the bottom of the blade is and where the top of the blade is, so it knows where to track, and then you can set the radius of that little cone that goes around it, or cylinder. For the shield, I just am doing a circle. So since it's basically always just going to be right in front of the player, So there's actually a lot of things going on in here. So I'm tracing. It's basically going through a timer, and it's checking the trace on a loop within that time and checking to see if it hit anything. And then at the end of the loop, we just clear it. But so I'm not going to go into all the details on this because it's pretty complex. But essentially what we're doing is if we trace and we detect a hit, then we go over here and say, okay, now we're going to apply some damage. Again, there's a whole lot going on here. So we're getting where the hit happened, and we're breaking it into its different components. We are mainly getting the location of the hit and the actor that was hit. So we check, was the actor that was hit, is it damageable? So that is just a tag we can add to any actor that we want to be able to hit with our sword. And we say, okay, that's true. And then we're going to do once, we're going to apply some damage. Right now I just have it set to base 10 damage, but we can actually change the amount of damage based on the different attacks. I just haven't gotten to that part yet. Then we play a camera shake to add a little oomph to the impact. And then we are spawning at the location of the hit. So this yellow line traces all the way back to the location of where the hit occurred. We're spawning a system. The system is a Niagara system of the blood spray. And we don't want to play the same blood spray every time, so I've got 3 different blood sprays. These are actually called bullet hits from this blood asset pack that I got. So we have this little variable of array. It's an array variable. What's the best way to say that? It's a variable that is an array of systems. We say, okay, get a copy of this list of our different blood sprays, and then randomly pick one, and then send that to this little thing that actually decides to spawn it, and spawn it at the place that we hit the guy. And then I also have another one, same thing, but instead of blood spray, it's blood splatters. So the stuff that actually lands on the ground. So I don't know if you noticed that or not, but I'll show you. And then so we've hit them, we've spawned spray, we've applied damage, we've spawned blood spray, we shook the camera, we spawned blood splatter. And then we have just a little half-second delay so that, you don't accidentally apply 2 attacks like simultaneously if you hit the button really fast or something. And then essentially we're doing the same thing down here with the shield. But right now I am not spawning blood spray for the shield. I'm kind of thinking that is more of just a blunt stun kind of thing, not gonna produce a lot of blood effects, but things we can change in the future if we want. All right, so camera shake, apply damage, camera shake, blood spray like where the hit occurs, and then the blood splatter on the ground. I left the debug on my shield, and then he dies and slides away. All right. So there is a whole lot of stuff going on there. So, like I said, it might not have looked very impressive at first glance. Very kind of basic, ugly looking attack system, but There's so many things going on in the background there. So this is my player stats blueprint component. So this is like a separate blueprint that you can add as a component to another blueprint. So this handles the stamina, the health, the experience. I won't go through all of this stuff, but we have, a function for what happens when you decrease health. Increase max stamina, like if you level up or if you get a item or something that increases your max stamina, how to do that. Increase health, increase XP, increase level, decrease stamina, increase max health, increase stamina. There's a lot of stuff going on here, and this is actually applied to the player and the enemy. So that's how we're tracking and displaying the enemy's health as well. So on this event graph, basically we're initializing the health and stamina and experience dependent on which actor this is attached to. Again, I'm not going to go through all the details on this because it's pretty complex and confusing and probably not super interesting to watch. But, essentially we say, at the beginning of play, we're casting this to the first person character. However, if that fails, because we aren't the first person character, if it's on the enemy, it'll go up here and say, okay, now cast to the enemy instead and apply the things to him. And then we have to display all that junk. We have our HUD. So the HUD consists of a canvas panel, which is this blue rectangle here, and essentially that is kind of representing the screen. And then we have our health bar, our stamina bar, our current health text on top of the bar. We have our level text up here in the top corner telling us what level we are, our experience bar, and how much experience we currently have there. So these are pretty easy to set up, actually. So the health bar, essentially, there's up here, you can have borders, buttons, checkboxes, blah, blah, blah. Progress bar, so we just slide the progress bar over here, and then we say, where should it be anchored? And this is so, if you are changing the resolution of your screen or whatever, and it's adapting your HUD here, it knows like where in the HUD it should be anchored to. So our health bar and our stamina bar are anchored to the bottom, and then we adjust the positions from there. And then for the bar itself, we can go in here and we can make it either like a picture or just a color. Right now I have it set as just like a semi-transparent kind of gray color in the background, red on top with a rounded box shape. There is some stuff in here for like animating it, or you can actually I think add like animated images as your bars. Like I said, I'm gonna try to not do HUDs, so I'm not working on that too much. Probably just gonna keep it like this for testing purposes and then switch it to something else. For the whether the bar fills up left to right, right to left, or like I have it right now where it as your stamina gets spent, it kind of shrinks down towards the middle. Just an option in here, drop down box. So pretty simple stuff. And then that thing I showed you just a minute ago, the player stats with the, increased level, increased max health, all that stuff, that actually handles the code for, how much health I should have, how much stamina I should have. And it's sends that to this HUD that then updates the bar based on, whatever I'm telling it to do. So one thing I didn't show here is I don't have any like actual levels or experience, anything like that right now, but I do have just like a button set up just to test make it sure it works. So I just hit the key here and you'll see my experience going up by 10 every time I hit it, and then level up. So now it takes me twice as much experience to get to the next level. Level up again. Now it's taking 350. Oh, gotta hit this key so many more times. Yeah, so right now, I don't even know precisely if I'm going to do levels. But I wanted to go ahead and implement that system in case I did want to. I don't know that I have a whole lot more to show in this video because this has been a lot of work and there's a lot of work to do still. Let's just take one more look at that combat, and you can appreciate all the things that are happening, even though it looks very simple. Oh, still got my debug on. Forgot about that. Oh, I'm out of stamina. Can't attack. I need a sound indicator when I run out of stamina so I know what's happening. Oh yeah, you might notice my enemy right now, if he loses sight of me, he just forgets that I'm there. So if I stand behind him outside of his line of sight, he won't see me. I got to figure out how to change that. I wonder if I can make his vision 360 degrees and just reduce the distance or something. And I got to figure out this how I want them to die, and I need to figure out how to make them hit me, which I think is going to go do another trace on their attacking hand during the attack animation, and then having checks on me to see if it connects, and then apply damage to me. So yeah. Hopefully we'll figure some of that stuff out in the next one. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.